And in that moment, my life split into before and after.
The notification sound from my phone cut through the Antarctic silence like a chainsaw through ice. After 8 months of nothing but howling wind and the occasional penguin argument, any digital noise felt like a gunshot to the brain. I was Adam Ross, mechanical engineer, currently stationed at McMurdo Research Station, and I'd been counting down the days until I could get back to my wife Julia and our cozy life in Edgewood, Massachusetts. The isolation had been brutal, but the overtime pay would finally let us start that family we'd been talking about. My phone showed 847 missed notifications, all from the same Instagram post. Julia's smiling face filled my screen, her blonde hair perfectly styled despite it being Tuesday morning back home. The caption read, "Finally pregnant? Time to lock this idiot down. #blessed life, #baby Ross, #can't wait for daddy." My blood turned colder than the -40 air outside. I'd been gone 8 months. The timeline was mathematically impossible unless Julia had been busy with someone who wasn't freezing his buttocks off in Antarctica. Without thinking, I typed a comment. "Whose baby?" I hit send before my rational brain could stop me. Within minutes, my phone started buzzing like an angry hornet. Screenshots were flying across every social platform. The comments section exploded into chaos. Julia's post had gone viral for all the wrong reasons. Holy mess! Her husband just called her out. This is better than reality TV. Did he really just ask whose baby it is? My phone rang. Julia's panicked voice crackled through the satellite connection. Adam, what the hell did you just do? I asked a simple math question, sweetheart. Care to show your work? You're being ridiculous. Of course it's yours. I pulled up my deployment papers on my tablet, took a screenshot, and posted it as a reply to my own comment. Official U.S. Antarctic program documentation showing my 8-month deployment with exact dates. The internet lost its collective mind. Oh my God, he brought receipts. Julia's about to get destroyed. This man just ended his marriage with a government document. Julia was crying now. Adam, please delete this. People are calling me horrible things. My phone is crashing from all the notifications. Maybe you should have thought about that before posting pregnancy announcements while your husband was on another continent. Through the static, I could hear her hyperventilating. It was a mistake. I was excited and confused about the dates. Confused about the dates or confused about the father? The line went dead. I stared at my phone as the comments kept pouring in. Julia's Instagram story showed her frantically trying to delete the post, but the internet never forgets. Screenshots were already spreading across Twitter, TikTok, and Reddit. My buddy Gordon Shaw, an ex-cop who now worked private security back in Edgewood, sent me a text. Dude, you just broke the internet. Julia's post is trending nationally. #whosebaby is the #1 hashtag right now. I laughed for the first time in months, a sound that echoed strangely in my tiny research station quarters. After 8 months of missing Julia, worrying about our relationship and planning our future together, she'd managed to destroy everything with a single social media post. The irony was beautiful. Julia lived for social media validation. She posted everything: her morning coffee, her yoga poses, her inspirational quotes about love and loyalty. Now, her obsession with online attention had exposed her cheating to literally millions of people. My phone buzzed with another notification. Julia had posted a new story. Dealing with some personal issues right now. Please respect our privacy during this difficult time. The comments were merciless. Privacy? You just announced your pregnancy to the world. Maybe respect your husband's privacy next time. Too late for privacy, honey. I screenshotted everything before she could delete it. Evidence. I'd learned the importance of documentation during my engineering career, and this situation would require careful record keeping. Another text from Gordon. Carter Hayes' engagement just got called off. His fiancée saw Julia's post and put 2 and 2 together. This town is going nuclear. Carter Hayes, local real estate developer, gym rat, and apparently Julia's baby daddy. I'd met him a few times at town events. Smarmy guy who wore expensive suits and drove a Porsche. The kind of man who thought his money made him untouchable. Not anymore. I opened my laptop and started a new document. Operation Icebreaker. The complete destruction of Julia Ross and Carter Hayes. If Julia wanted to play games on social media, I'd show her how an engineer approaches problem solving. Methodically, thoroughly, with devastating precision. The Antarctic wind howled outside my window, but inside I was already planning my return to Edgewood. Julia had just handed me the perfect blueprint for revenge, gift-wrapped with a viral hashtag. She'd always said I was too nice, too passive, too willing to let things slide. Time to show her what 8 months of isolation and betrayal could do to a nice guy. 3 weeks later, I was back in Edgewood, standing in the doorway of what used to be our home. Julia had moved out, leaving behind a mess of half-packed boxes and a forwarding address to some luxury apartment complex by the lake. The house felt like a crime scene. Her coffee mug still sat in the sink, lipstick stain on the rim. Her yoga mat was rolled up in the corner, probably abandoned when her new life became more important than her old routines. I'd spent the flight home planning my next moves. This wasn't about winning Julia back. That ship had sailed the moment she decided to cheat. This was about justice, about making sure actions had consequences. Gordon Shaw knocked on my door around noon, carrying a box of donuts and a tablet full of information. "You look like hell," he said, settling into my kitchen chair. 8 months in Antarctica, followed by discovering your wife's pregnant with another man's baby, will do that to you. Gordon opened his tablet. "I've been doing some digging, purely legal surveillance. Nothing that would get either of us in trouble. Julia's been busy while you were gone." He showed me a timeline he'd constructed using public records, social media posts, and basic observation. Julia had been seen regularly at Carter's real estate office, at his gym, and at several upscale restaurants around town. "Here's the interesting part," Gordon continued. "Carter's been paying for a lot of things. Her car payments, her credit card bills, even the rent on that fancy apartment she's living in now. How do you know all this? Julia's not as smart as she thinks. She posts everything on social media, including check-ins at places she can't afford on her marketing coordinator salary. I cross-referenced her posts with Carter's public business expenses. The timeline matches perfectly. I studied the evidence. Julia had been living a double life, funded by Carter's money while I was sending my entire Antarctic paycheck home to support what I thought was our future together. "There's more," Gordon said. "Carter's been bragging about the affair at the country club. Apparently, he thought it was hilarious that you were stuck in Antarctica while he was sleeping with your wife." The rage hit me like a physical force. I'd spent 8 months in isolation, missing Julia every day while she was playing house with Carter and laughing about it behind my back. "What's your plan?" Gordon asked. "Complete destruction. I want both of them to lose everything that matters to them." "Legally? Of course. I'm not going to prison for these two idiots." Gordon grinned. "Then, let's get to work." We spent the afternoon in my garage, setting up what Gordon called our war room. Whiteboards covered with timelines, printed social media posts, financial records, and a detailed map of Edgewood showing all the places Julia and Carter had been spotted together. The evidence was overwhelming. Julia had been cheating for at least 6 months, probably longer. Carter had been funding her lifestyle, essentially paying for the privilege of sleeping with another man's wife. "First target, Carter's reputation," I said, marking our strategy on the whiteboard. "He's a real estate developer. His business depends on trust and community standing." "Already ahead of you," Gordon said. "I've got contacts at the local newspaper and the town Facebook groups. Once we release the right information, Carter's going to find it very difficult to do business in Edgewood." Second target, Julia's social media empire. Julia had built her identity around being the perfect wife, the supportive partner, the woman who stood by her man through difficult deployments. She had thousands of followers who looked up to her inspirational posts about love and loyalty. They were about to learn the truth. Third target, their relationship. "You think they'll turn on each other?" "I know they will. Neither of them is built for real adversity. The moment things get difficult, they'll start blaming each other." My phone buzzed with a text from Julia. "Adam, we need to talk. Can we meet somewhere private?" I showed Gordon the message. "She's getting nervous," he said. "The viral post was just the beginning. She knows you're back in town, and she's probably hearing rumors about Carter's business problems. Let her sweat for a while. I'm not ready to talk yet." That evening, I drove to the Broken Paddle, Edgewood's seediest bar and the town's unofficial gossip headquarters. If you wanted to know everyone's secrets, you talked to Tina, the bartender who'd been serving drinks and collecting information for 20 years. Well, Tina said as I walked in. "If it isn't the famous Antarctic husband, you're quite the celebrity around here. Just looking for a quiet drink." "Quiet's not what you're gonna get. Half the town's been talking about your wife's little announcement." She poured me a beer and leaned across the bar. "For what it's worth, most folks are on your side. Julia always acted like she was better than everyone else. People are enjoying watching her fall." "What about Carter?" Tina's expression darkened. That piece of garbage has been coming in here bragging about his conquest for months. Made my skin crawl, listening to him talk about you like you were some kind of joke. She pulled out her phone and showed me a video. Carter, obviously drunk, telling a group of guys at the bar about how easy it had been to seduce Julia while her loser husband was stuck in Antarctica. I recorded this last month, Tina said. Figured it might come in handy someday. Perfect. Another piece of evidence for my collection. Tina, if I were to hypothetically want to make sure this video got seen by the right people, how would someone go about that? She smiled. Hypothetically, I'd say social media algorithms love controversial content. Post something like this at the right time with the right hashtags, and it'll spread faster than gossip at a church social. I finished my beer and headed home, my mind racing with possibilities. Julia and Carter had made the mistake of thinking I was harmless, that my nice guy reputation meant I wouldn't fight back. They were about to learn the difference between being nice and being weak. Back home, I found another text from Julia. Adam, please, I made a mistake. We can work through this. I typed back. The only mistake was getting caught. We'll talk when I'm ready. The real work was about to begin. Julia's desperation was becoming obvious. Over the next week, she sent dozens of texts, left voicemails, and even showed up at my house twice. I ignored all of it, letting her anxiety build while Gordon and I prepared our offensive. The beauty of modern revenge was that people documented their own destruction. Julia and Carter had left a digital trail that would make a forensics expert weep with joy. Look at this, Gordon said, showing me Carter's Instagram story from the previous night. A video of him at some upscale restaurant, bragging about his upgraded lifestyle while Julia giggled in the background. They're celebrating, I said. They think they won. Julia's got a rich boyfriend, Carter's got his trophy, and they assume you're just going to disappear quietly. Wrong assumption. I'd been studying both of them like engineering problems, looking for weak points and pressure fractures. Carter's weakness was his ego and his business reputation. Julia's weakness was her need for social validation and her carefully constructed online persona. Time to apply some stress to those weak points. Phase 1 starts today, I told Gordon. I'd spent the morning crafting the perfect social media post. A simple photo of my Antarctic deployment papers, with a caption that read, "Just got back from 8 months in Antarctica. Interesting to see what changes while you're gone. Hash. Truth hash, accountability hash, Edgewood drama." I posted it simultaneously on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, then tagged several local news outlets and community groups. Within an hour, the post had hundreds of shares and comments. People were connecting the dots, remembering Julia's viral pregnancy announcement, and realizing the timeline didn't add up. Local news reporter Sarah Chen called me 20 minutes later. "Mr. Ross, I'm working on a story about military families and deployment challenges. Would you be willing to do an interview?" I'd be happy to discuss the realities of long-distance relationships and trust. Perfect. Local news coverage would legitimize the story and reach people who didn't follow social media drama. While I was setting up media coverage, Gordon was working his contacts in the business community. Carter's real estate firm depended on local connections and community trust. Gordon had been quietly sharing information about Carter's affair with key business leaders around town. Jim Morrison at the bank is asking questions about Carter's expense reports, Gordon reported. Apparently, Carter's been writing off his dates with Julia as business entertainment. That's fraud. It's definitely creative accounting. Jim's not happy about it. The pressure was building from multiple directions. Carter's business relationships were getting strained, Julia's social media was being flooded with hostile comments, and the local community was choosing sides. My phone rang. Julia, crying. "Adam, you have to stop this. People are saying horrible things about me online. My boss is asking questions about my relationship with Carter. This is destroying my life. Your life was already destroyed the moment you decided to cheat. I'm just making sure everyone else knows about it. I made a mistake. I was lonely and scared, and Carter was there when you weren't. I wasn't there because I was working to support our future. You weren't lonely. You were selfish. Please, we can fix this. I'll do anything." "It's too late for fixing, Julia. This is about consequences now." I hung up and immediately got a call from Carter. "Ross, you need to back off. Julia's pregnant and you're causing her stress that could hurt the baby. Funny how you're suddenly concerned about the baby's welfare. Where was that concern when you were sleeping with another man's wife?" Look, I get that you're angry, but this has gone far enough. Julia made her choice. Accept it and move on. I am moving on, Carter. I'm moving on to destroying both of you. Are you threatening me? I'm promising you. Everything you care about, your business, your reputation, your comfortable life, it's all going away. And the best part is you're going to do most of the work for me. Carter's voice got aggressive. You think you can intimidate me? I've got lawyers, connections, money. You're nobody. We'll see about that. I hung up and turned to Gordon. They're starting to panic. Time for phase 2. Gordon had been waiting for this moment. He pulled out Tina's video of Carter bragging about the affair and uploaded it to a new anonymous social media account. The caption read, "Local businessman Carter Hayes, discussing his conquest while her husband served overseas. Is this the kind of person we want representing our community?" The video went viral within hours. Carter's drunken bragging, his crude comments about Julia, and his dismissive attitude toward military service created a perfect storm of public outrage. The comments were brutal. Disgusting behavior from a grown man. How can anyone do business with someone like this? Military families sacrifice enough without dealing with predators like Carter Hayes. Carter's real estate office started getting angry phone calls. His social media accounts were flooded with negative reviews. Several business partnerships were quietly terminated. Julia called again, hysterical this time. "Adam, Carter's blaming me for everything. He says I seduced him and that he's the sufferer here. You have to help me." Help you? Julia, you destroyed our marriage and humiliated me in front of the entire town. Why would I help you? Because I'm carrying a baby. Whatever you think of me, this child doesn't deserve to suffer. She was right about the baby, but wrong about everything else. The baby will be fine. Carter's got plenty of money to support his child. Unless his business collapses, of course. His business is collapsing. He's losing clients every day. People won't work with him anymore. Sounds like a personal problem. Adam, please. I know I hurt you, but I'm begging you. Call off whatever you're doing. I'm not doing anything except telling the truth. If the truth is destroying your life, maybe you should have made better choices. The beautiful thing about social media justice was that it became self-sustaining. I didn't need to keep pushing. The community was doing the work for me. Carter's reputation was in free fall. Julia's social media presence had become toxic, and their relationship was cracking under the pressure. But I wasn't done yet. Phase 3 would be the most satisfying part of all. The breaking point came 2 weeks later at Murphy's Pub, during their weekly trivia night. I'd been avoiding public places, letting Gordon handle most of the social reconnaissance, while I planned the final stages of my revenge. But I needed to see how the community was reacting, and Murphy's was always packed on Wednesday nights. I walked in to find the usual crowd, but the atmosphere felt different. Conversation stopped when people saw me. Some nodded sympathetically, others looked uncomfortable, and a few actually approached to offer support. "Adam," called out Mike Peterson, a guy I'd known since high school. "Good to see you back, man. Sorry about all the drama." "Thanks, Mike. Just trying to move forward." "Most of us think you're handling this pretty well. Julia and Carter made their bed. Now they get to lie in it." I ordered a beer from Tina, who winked and whispered, "Your video's got over 50,000 views now. Carter's been in here twice this week, drunk and angry. He's not handling the attention well." That's when I saw them. Julia and Carter at a corner table, huddled together in what looked like an intense argument. Julia was crying. Carter was gesturing angrily, and both of them looked like they hadn't slept in days. Perfect timing for the confrontation I'd been planning. I walked over to their table, beer in hand, and sat down without invitation. "Evening, folks. Mind if I join you?" Carter's face went red. "What the hell are you doing here, Ross?" "It's a free country, Carter. Public establishment, I can sit wherever I want." Julia looked up at me with red, puffy eyes. "Adam, please don't make a scene." "Make a scene? Julia, you made the scene when you posted that pregnancy announcement. I'm just here to enjoy the show." Carter stood up, trying to look intimidating. "You need to leave. Now. Or what? You'll call the police?" "Tell them what exactly? That I'm sitting in a public place drinking a beer?" The entire pub had gone quiet, everyone watching our table. This was exactly what I'd hoped for, a public confrontation with witnesses. "You've been bothering us for weeks," Carter said loudly. "Posting lies online, turning the community against us." "Lies?" I pulled out my phone and opened the video of Carter bragging about the affair. "Is this a lie, Carter? Because it sounds like your voice talking about your conquests while I was serving overseas. The sound carried across the quiet pub. Several people pulled out their phones to record what was happening. Carter lunged for my phone, but I was ready for that. I stood up and stepped back, letting him stumble forward and look like the aggressor. "Don't touch me, Carter. We both know you're better at attacking people who can't fight back." "You idiot!" Carter swung at me. But 8 months of Antarctic physical labor had kept me in better shape than his gym routine had kept him. I ducked easily and let his momentum carry him into an empty chair. The pub erupted. People were shouting, phones were recording, and Murphy himself came out from behind the bar to restore order. "That's enough," Murphy yelled. "Carter, you're cut off. Get out of my place." "He started it," Carter protested, pointing at me. "He started it by sitting down and having a beer? You threw the first punch, buddy. You're banned." Julia was sobbing now, the stress of the public confrontation overwhelming her carefully maintained composure. "This is all your fault," she screamed at me. "You're destroying everything out of spite." "I'm destroying everything?" I laughed, and the sound carried across the silent pub. "Julia, you destroyed everything when you decided to cheat. I'm just making sure everyone knows who you really are. I made a mistake. You made a choice. Multiple choices. For months. While I was working to support our future, you were building a new life with Carter's money." The crowd was completely absorbed in our drama. Several people were live streaming on social media, which meant this confrontation would be preserved forever. "You want to know the truth?" I said, addressing the entire pub now. "Julia didn't just cheat. She used my deployment money I earned freezing my buttocks off in Antarctica, to fund her affair with Carter. Every dollar I sent home to support our marriage was actually supporting their relationship." Gasps from the crowd. This was information I'd been saving for maximum impact. "That's not true," Julia protested, but her voice lacked conviction. I pulled out my phone again and showed bank statements that Gordon had helped me compile. Joint account deposits from my Antarctic pay matched with credit card charges at restaurants where Julia was seen with Carter. "Math doesn't lie, sweetheart." Carter was trying to drag Julia toward the exit, but she was too upset to move coherently. "Wait," I called out. "Carter, before you go, I have something for you." I reached into my jacket and pulled out an envelope. "Divorce papers. Julia's officially free to be with you now. Congratulations on winning my sloppy seconds." The pub exploded with reaction. People were laughing, gasping, and recording everything. Carter's face went white as he realized the full implications of what was happening. "You're also going to love this," I continued, pulling out another document. "Paternity test request. Since Julia's been so confused about dates and biology, I figured we should get some scientific clarity about whose baby she's carrying." Julia collapsed back into her chair, overwhelmed by the public humiliation. "And Carter," I said, walking closer to him, "you might want to check your business insurance. I hear cheating clauses can be tricky for professional liability coverage." That was a bluff, but Carter didn't know enough about insurance law to call it. "You're insane," Carter muttered. "I'm thorough. There's a difference." I finished my beer, left a 20 on the bar, and walked toward the exit. The crowd parted like I was some kind of celebrity. At the door, I turned back to address the room one final time. "Folks, this has been educational for everyone. Remember, actions have consequences, and the internet never forgets. Have a great evening." I walked out to spontaneous applause. The confrontation videos were online within minutes, spreading across every social platform with hashtags like #AntarcticRevenge and #JusticeServed. Julia and Carter's public meltdown became the most watched local drama in Edgewood history, but I still had one final surprise planned. The best was yet to come. The morning after the Murphy's pub confrontation, I woke up to discover that our local drama had gone national. A Twitter account called @DramaAlert had picked up the story, and suddenly, #AntarcticRevenge was trending across the country. News outlets were calling it the most savage divorce revenge of 2024. Talk shows were discussing the ethics of public humiliation. Social media influencers were breaking down the timeline and praising my methodical approach to justice. Julia and Carter had become a cautionary tale about infidelity in the digital age. But I wasn't done yet. Gordon arrived at my house with coffee and a massive grin. "Dude, you broke the internet again. CNN wants to interview you." "Not interested in fame. I'm interested in finishing this." "What's left to finish?" "Carter's business is destroyed, Julia's social media career is over, and their relationship is falling apart under pressure. They still have each other. And Carter still has money. Gordon studied my expression. You've got something else planned. I led him to my garage war room, where I'd been working on the final phase of Operation Icebreaker. The whiteboard was covered with financial records, property deeds, and legal documents. Carter's been hiding assets, I explained. The fancy apartment he's paying for Julia, the expensive car, the jewelry, it's all being funded through his business accounts. That's tax fraud and embezzlement. You want to get him arrested? I want to get him audited. There's a difference. I'd spent weeks documenting Carter's financial irregularities. His business expenses included romantic dinners, jewelry purchases, and apartment rent, all written off as client entertainment and business development. The IRS would have a field day with his creative accounting. I've already submitted an anonymous tip to the IRS whistleblower program, I said. Carter's about to discover that cheating is expensive, but tax fraud is devastating. Gordon whistled. That's brutal, man. He earned it. My phone rang. Julia, calling from a number I didn't recognize. Adam, we need to talk. In person, please. I think we've said everything that needs saying. Carter left me. He said the publicity was destroying his business, and he couldn't afford to be associated with me anymore. I felt a moment of satisfaction. Their relationship hadn't survived the first real test of adversity. That's unfortunate, Julia. I'm pregnant and alone. I have no money, no job, and nowhere to live. Carter took back the apartment and the car. Sounds like you trusted the wrong person. I know I hurt you, but I'm desperate. Can we meet somewhere private? I'll explain everything. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her at Riverside Park, away from the town gossips and social media cameras. Julia looked terrible. Her usually perfect hair was unwashed. Her clothes were wrinkled, and she'd obviously been crying for days. The confident woman who'd posted that viral pregnancy announcement was gone, replaced by someone who looked broken and desperate. Thank you for coming, she said. You've got 15 minutes. I know you hate me, but I need you to understand something. Carter pursued me. He told me you didn't love me anymore, that you were planning to leave me when you got back from Antarctica. So you decided to cheat based on lies from a man you barely knew? I was scared and lonely. You'd been gone for months, and Carter was paying attention to me, making me feel special. I was gone because I was working to support us. Every dollar I earned was for our future together. Julia started crying again. I know that now. Carter used my loneliness against me, and when things got difficult, he abandoned me completely. What do you want from me, Julia? Forgiveness, a second chance, the possibility that we could work through this. I stared at her for a long moment, remembering the woman I'd married, the life we'd planned together, the future that was now impossible. Julia, you didn't just cheat on me. You humiliated me publicly, used my money to fund your affair, and destroyed our marriage for a man who abandoned you the moment things got complicated. I made mistakes. You made choices, and choices have consequences. I pulled out an envelope and handed it to her. Final divorce papers. I'm keeping the house, the savings account, and my self-respect. You get to keep Carter's baby and whatever life you can build from the wreckage you created. She opened the envelope with shaking hands. Adam, please, I love you. No, you don't. You love the security I provided, the stability I offered, and the image we projected. But you don't love me enough to be faithful, honest, or loyal. I stood up to leave. What am I supposed to do now? She called after me. Figure it out. You're an adult who made adult choices. Time to face adult consequences. That evening, Gordon and I sat in my backyard drinking beer and watching the sunset over Edgewood. My phone was buzzing with interview requests, book deal offers, and social media notifications, but I'd turned off most of the volume. So, what's next? Gordon asked. I start over. New life, new possibilities, new relationships built on trust and honesty. Any regrets about how you handled this? I thought about that question seriously. No. Julia and Carter made their choices freely, with full knowledge of the potential consequences. I just made sure those consequences actually happened. The internet's calling you a hero. I'm not a hero. I'm just a guy who refused to be a sufferer. My phone buzzed with one final text from an unknown number. This is Carter. You win. I'm leaving town. The IRS froze my accounts and my business is finished. I hope you're happy. I showed the text to Gordon. Are you happy? He asked. I looked around at my house, my life, my future full of possibilities I hadn't had to share with people who'd betrayed me. Yeah, I said. I really am. The story of Julia's viral pregnancy announcement and my methodical revenge had become internet legend. #Antarctic Revenge was still trending weeks later, and my approach had become a template for scorned spouses everywhere. But the real victory wasn't the viral fame or the public vindication. It was the knowledge that I'd stood up for myself, refused to accept betrayal quietly, and ensured that actions had appropriate consequences. Julia and Carter had learned that cheating in the digital age comes with a permanent record and a global audience. They'd gambled their reputations on a relationship built on lies and selfishness, and they'd lost everything. I'd gambled my nice guy reputation on a quest for justice, and I'd won my self-respect back. 6 months later, I received a wedding invitation in the mail. Gordon was marrying Sarah Chen, the reporter who'd covered my story. They'd met during one of her interviews about military families and deployment challenges. At the bottom of the invitation, Gordon had written a note. "Thanks for showing us all that nice guys don't have to finish last." He was right. Nice guys don't have to finish last. They just have to stop being pushovers.